Welcome to the agency call, the Senior Solutions Friday agency call. Your two uh, uh, guest speakers, or I should say hosts, are myself, Joe Johnson here in Chicago, and Jimmy Hernandez, agency director out in San Antonio, Texas. So I want to hop right into today's training. Not waste a lot of time, no announcements, just want to get right into the nuts and bolts of today's training, which if you saw the email blast or the text blast, I should say, that went out, talked about Transamerica is back. We're going to be talking about their new lower rates, their improved application process, and they've made some improvements on their underwriting as well. It's been about 18 months. If you guys have been with us for several years, used to be when we would recruit, bring on a new agent, training like Transamerica, Mutual of Omaha, like those are our two go-to carriers. And then, about a year and a half ago with Transamerica, I mean, like the wheels completely fell off. They changed everything. They put up a new website, which was a disaster. It didn't work properly. They changed their underwriting, their final expense application. The paper application became a 30-page application. The e-application was horrible. Finally, they got their act together, and they're continuously making improvements. We had a training call with them a couple of weeks ago, and they know there's still a few things that they need to work on, but if you haven't been using Transamerica because of what they did a year and a half ago, certainly give them another look. They've made some great improvements. So we're going to hop right into the training. If you're checking this out, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, this is a live broadcast. We do a live training call every Friday. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. Jimmy and I put out new content every single week. So the more subscribers we get, the better it helps us. It allows more people to be able to view the content that we put out every single week. One of the things that Transamerica did a while back is, as far as support, they've got kind of a new model where they have the country broken down into different sections, and you can actually call and talk to what they refer to as an internal wholesaler, which is really our sales support. These are people that are set up specifically to help field agents. I think if you talk to your internal wholesaler, you'll get a lot better results than just calling the 1-800 number and trying to get support that way. So here's just some real quick phone numbers. This is the internal wholesalers that you can reach out to. They should be able to help us. These are the main guys down in the Southeast, but that's really the person that we should be calling. So like the Aaron or Chris, you see those phone numbers, those would be your go-to contacts. So if you have questions about something, if you need help running an illustration, you don't understand something, these are going to be the go-to people to reach out to, and that's your internal wholesalers. So moving on, that's one of the changes that they did make. All right, final expense improvements that they've made over the last 6 months. They've been making improvements really over the last year, but most recently, the new coverage for support model, which I just talked about, setting up internal wholesalers, so we don't have to call the 800 number and talk to somebody. We have designated sales support that we can talk to. The other thing too is that Transamerica removed all of their COVID restrictions, the COVID-19 age restrictions. So they're back to doing business as normal. You don't have to worry about that. They also made very significant improvements in reducing amendments, which resulted in slowing down the process, okay? Especially with paper applications, Transamerica was always famous for, any mistake you made, even if it's something that could easily be corrected with a cross out and an initial, they would send an amendment. They wouldn't issue the policy. Now they're issuing the policies. Instead of making it an amendment, they make it an endorsement, which means they're still going to issue it. The agent can, if you were to miss something, not a signature, obviously, but if you're miss something kind of minor, it can be an endorsement. They're still issuing the policies. The client's getting their coverage, and it's not holding up that. They also made some improvements on their final expense quick tool quoting app, which most of us here at Senior Solutions, we don't use. You should be signed up for FEX Toolkit for doing all the quotes, but they did make a change in that. They also put out a bunch of new educational emails that you can get off of their website, and they drastically improved their e-application process, which we'll kind of get to in a little bit. They reduced a lot of the fields, a lot of things that were popping up as requirements, like stupid stuff. Like initially when they came out with their new e-app, I think when you got to the beneficiary, if you didn't have a social security number, you'd have to make one up. Now you can just skip it. So, I mean, they really have made a lot of improvements on their paper app, as well as their e-application as well. So first thing we're going to talk about is the new lower rates. Is, having the lowest rates in the industry is that the most important thing? No, I think the most important thing is ease of doing business and underwriting. But at the same time, if your underwriting sucks and you're hard to do business with and your rates are high, that makes for a really bad combination. So one of the things that Transamerica has done right is that they really have lowered their rates, especially on not just the preferred, but I think the standout is on their standard rate, which I'll show you here in just a little bit. But talking about rates and how you get rates, again, if you are not signed up for FEX Toolkit, guys, this is something that you definitely need to get signed up for. FEX Toolkit will save you time. It will save you money. It's that if you don't know what it is, check it out. We've got some training on it. But it's anytime I run a quote now, I never, I won't say never, but very rarely do I ever use the carrier quoting tool. I just go to FEX Toolkit. It gives me everything I need, including the underwriting. It's $114 for the year. So super, super cheap. Again,
you said it would save you money. I would say it's going to make you money.
Yeah. Yeah. In the long run, it's going to make you more efficient, better placement, better persistency. Yeah, no doubt it's going to make you money. So I did a couple of screenshots. This is actually kind of hard to see. I'm sorry. I was trying to squeeze a lot in here. I'm gonna get a highlighter. Actually, a highlighter. Change that to red. Okay, just so I can see my cursor a little bit better. All right, so I know this is kind of small, but I was trying to squeeze these screenshots in that you can see. What I did for this comparison is I did a $10,000 death benefit level for a male, age 65, and height and weight 5'5", 200. So height and weight is good. I didn't put in any medical condition. So in this case, we're assuming that we have a relatively healthy, no major medical issues, non-tobacco, 65-year-old. So when you're using FEX Toolkit and you put it in, you can see this has got the top 2, 4, 6. It's got the top 6 from Transamerica down to Security National, and you can see Transamerica is coming in number 1 at $53.97, and the lowest, in 6th place, is Security National at 57. So what you can see is that, quite honestly, when you look at the top 3 or 4 carriers, I mean, there's really not a big difference. There's like $2 or $3 difference between, like, let's say if you drop all the way down to Mutual of Omaha as compared to Transamerica. So there's not a huge difference usually when you're dealing with someone who's healthy. The one thing on FEX Toolkit, and I don't want to get into a lot of training on FEX Toolkit, but if you notice the column on the left, you see a couple of carriers have stars. There's a star here, a star here, and a star here. The star indicates that these are carriers that do what we call true Social Security billing, which means is that that they will draft the premium on the exact day that the client is receiving their Social Security. And I can tell you, for persistency and longevity of the policy, it's huge. I know with my policies that I've personally written with Transamerica, Liberty Bankers as well, I do notice is that with those carriers, I have a lot less lapses, because if, like on a holiday, if the, if the first or the third falls on a Monday and the Monday's a holiday, or even if it falls on a Sunday and that client's getting their Social Security on Friday, that carrier may not be drafting that money till Monday or Tuesday. If they do true Social Security billing, they're actually drafting that premium payment on the Friday, a couple of days before the regular date, on the day they actually get their Social Security. I know that may seem like not a big deal, but I'm just telling you, when you're dealing with people that are living paycheck to paycheck, it's a huge deal. So it's just another little plug on one of the reasons why I really like Transamerica, is because of when it comes to billing, they're probably one of the best.
Hey, Joe, and
Yes.
I just want to add to that. I've heard this many times, and I'm sure you have too. People will say, well, make sure you take it out on the day, on the 3rd or the 1st, because I get up and I go to the bank and I take all my money out. So if you didn't get it out, it ain't gonna go through. I don't know if you I've heard that so many times, right? So they're used to rating their bank account. So you got to make sure, particularly if you hear that from somebody, you want to put it with Transamerica or some other carrier that is going to do true Social Security billing. That way, that policy doesn't lapse.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about some of the common health issues that we experience out in the field. And so we see that Transamerica is coming up number 1 for a healthy person. How about someone that has just a couple of issues? All right. So the next one I put in, it's the same client, male, age 65, but this particular client has COPD, which is pretty common. Okay. Nice thing about Transamerica, you can see CVS Health, Liberty Bankers, and Foresters. They're all going to give that person same day coverage. Okay, which means is even though they have COPD, they're still eligible to get immediate coverage under what they refer to as the standard plan. But this is where you can really start to see a big difference between what Transamerica did with their standard rates and the next closest competition. So on someone who has COPD, you can see Transamerica on the 10,000 is coming at $66 a month. The next closest is CVS at $79, almost $80 a month. Guys, that's a roughly $13, $14 difference in premium. That's a big deal on a $66 premium. So not only can you, with Transamerica, can you show that client a lower premium, you can also potentially show them a higher amount. So if they're originally, let's say, budgeting for 10,000, maybe you can squeeze in 12 or 13,000 because of a lower rate. And when you get into Liberty Bankers, mean, they're at $81 a month. Foresters is $92 a month. So this is where having the FEX toolkit is a great tool, because when you're showing the client, hey, here's what, at 10,000, most of the state regulated providers are going to have you, $80 to $90. But listen, man, I can get you with Transamerica, it's only going to be $66 a month. So huge difference on that standard rate with COPD. I think that's probably where they really shine, is on that standard rate. But again, on the training that we did, I think Transamerica is coming up number one about 80, I forget what they said, 83% of the time they're coming up number one. Here's something we run into: diabetes with complications, with neuropathy. Okay. With Transamerica, neuropathy is an acceptable complication. They still get preferred. So you can see here that same 10,000, they're coming in at $53 a month for a 65-year-old. So again, that's still number one. That's better than Royal Neighbors or American Home Life. And you notice with Mutual, you got to go to graded if they have neuropathy. Now, the one thing I will tell you is that if with Transamerica, make sure you put, when you're using FEX Toolkit, you put in all their medications, because if they're diabetic with neuropathy, which they qualify for preferred, but if they're using insulin, that's going to drop them to standard. So it's going to raise the rate a little bit. So you just got to be, when you're using the FEX Toolkit, you got to make sure you use it to its full capacity and use it for everything that's worth. So that's why it's important to not only put in the health conditions, but also list the medications as well. Let me see what else I know I did diabetes with neuropathy. Let me see what else I did. Blood thinners. Carriers look at blood thinners for a lot of different reasons. If a client's on blood thinners, it can be for a number of reasons. It could be for blood clots. It could be because of a heart condition. It could be because of a stroke. They may have irregular heartbeat. They may have, all different kinds of things. So in this particular case, I put in warfarin, and it could be warfarin, Coumadin, Plavix. There's, a dozen different blood thinners. That's why it's important to list their medications. In this situation, I put in warfarin, and then I put in that the client had a stroke, and I put it in that it was over 2 years ago. So nice thing about Transamerica is that they have always been blood thinner friendly, as long as the incident that they're taking blood thinner for has been over 2 years. So if they had, a stent put in, if you know anybody that's had a stent put in, chances are they're probably on blood thinners. If they had a stroke, they're probably on blood thinners. So these are your top carriers for blood thinners. Again, Transamerica is coming in as preferred with blood thinners at that $53 a month. CFG is blood thinner friendly. I forget what that red dot is for. Oh, the red dot means is that it could be referred to underwriting. So Transamerica, it's a standard risk, actually a preferred risk, we should say. So again, client on blood thinner, Transamerica is coming up number one. Asthma. Now we're listing this as mild asthma. Now, Jimmy, we can talk about this. Guys, when you're meeting with a client and you're doing your own field underwriting and you're asking about asthma, chronic bronchitis, COPD, emphysema, a lot of clients will try to convince you they only have asthma. And they'll try to convince you that it's only, oh yeah, I just have, it's just mild asthma. When really they have chronic asthma or COPD or emphysema, something that's more than just mild asthma. Per Transamerica's underwriting guidelines, and now they actually have it on the application, they consider chronic asthma as a person that uses an inhaler that is refilled more than 6 times a year, okay, or six or more. So what we're saying is that mild asthma, inhaler use only as needed or seasonal, not filled more than 6 times per year. So if you're meeting with that client and you're doing your field underwriting, you find out, hey, they do have a lung issue, they use an inhaler, it's important to ask how many times a year, how often do they use it, but not only that, but how often do they get that refilled? And if they tell you they get it refilled, once a month or every 2 months even, that's 6 times a year, that puts them into the chronic asthma category, not necessarily mild asthma. So you just got to be careful with that. I don't know about you, Jimmy, but I mean, most of the clients I meet with that are on inhalers, it seems like they're always trying to sell me, or they're always trying to downplay how mild their condition is, yet they're getting, they're getting a new refill every month, so they're using it on a daily basis. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing with that.
Yeah, most carriers consider chronic, regardless of the let's say the illness. Chronic is considered something that you require to take medication daily for. So, being that I grew up with asthma, I can tell you that if you have an inhaler and you take it as needed, meaning I would have seasonal asthma attacks when the weather changed, or maybe I triggered it with overexertion in exercise. Excuse me. I would use that inhaler, and I probably realistically only filled it once a year. Now that's mild, right?
Right, for sure.
My son, as an example, he has to take it every day. That's considered chronic. And I'm going to say, regardless of carrier, regardless of the illness, that's pretty much the guideline for most carriers. Now, if Transamerica is saying 6 times a year, well, then I think that that's pretty liberal, and that's pretty nice. So you just got to ask them. The other thing too is always ask them to see their inhaler, type in the prescription, the name of it, because there's a lot of inhalers that are made specifically for COPD. So if it comes up and it says COPD and it's not a multi purpose, they have COPD.
Yeah, very true. So just be cautious on that. But again, if you have a client that really does have mild asthma, Transamerica is going to rate it as preferred. They're not going to get marked up to standard. Seizures, which we don't run into a lot, but it does come up. People have seizures for a lot of different reasons. It could be epilepsy. It could be, some type of, maybe they had a neuro trauma, or, all different kinds of things. So on their application, they've listed it as 6 seizures or less in the last 2 years. So if they've if they had more than that, then they would get as standard. But if you're meeting with someone that, let's say they do have epilepsy, and they take you put in the medication, and it's an anti-seizure medication, and just ask them, when's the last time you had a seizure? Oh, I haven't had one in 6 months. Well, how many have you had in the last 2 years? Well, only 3. You're still going to get preferred with Transamerica. Like I said, seizures doesn't come up a lot, but it is something that does pop up once in a while. And what I've noticed is that sometimes agents don't know how to react. They think it's something like really serious. Oh, they're on anti-seizure medication. I'm going to have to go guaranteed issue. No, a lot of times having seizures is, carriers don't really consider that a big deal unless they, have them a lot. So just something to be careful of. Okay, that's all I had for just a couple of issues. Those are all, like I said, this training that we're doing is, not to get into the weeds on field underwriting, but just just explain to you where Transamerica has made some significant improvements over the last 6 months. So those are just some of the things I wanted to point out. Here are some of the highlighted features of Transamerica that maybe you did or did not know compared to, some of the competition that's listed here. One is that their final expense application does go down to age 0. It's the same application. The medical questions are slightly different, but it's the exact same application. So you don't have to worry about carrying a different application. The only thing that you will notice it's different or on the application is it asks questions specifically to the age of 45. So with Transamerica, what's kind of nice is that their normal table, we'll say table 6 underwriting is from age 45 to 85. That's 40 years. If they're under 45 and you want to write them final expense, the questions are the same, just the time period in which those happened are a little bit different. So just be cautious of that. Same application, slightly different underwriting questions. The other thing that I've always liked about Transamerica is that their minimum issue amount is $1,000. Now I haven't written a lot of policies for only $1,000. I have written a few like at $1,500 and $2,000 when you get those clients that are like 80, 85 years old. They already have a policy, but they want a few bucks more. It's good to have that you can go all the way down to $1,000 policy. And they have one of the highest maximums. I think up to age 55. I'd have to verify that, but depending on their age, you can go all the way up to 50,000, which is one of the highest face amounts allowed. Risk class, preferred and standard. I always like carriers that have a multi-tier approach to their application, having a preferred and standard, which is a same-day coverage, and then having also available is a graded benefit. So that's another advantage, because with Transamerica, you're going to have a lot of clients that will fit in standard, like if they have COPD, neuropathy, schizophrenia, where they could fit in as standard, where with other carriers, they may be modified or even modified or graded. They also have a graded death benefit. We really don't sell a lot of the Transamerica graded death benefit. Premiums are high, and you take a huge commission cut on their graded product. I think it's like 40 points. I don't think I have a slide for this, but I think I'll mention it since we're talking about commission. The other thing that I've always liked about Transamerica is, regardless of your client's age, whether you're writing a 1-year-old or an 85-year-old, as long as the policy is preferred or standard, it's the same commission rate. So some carriers have like some weird grids, and like on some of them, if they're younger, you actually get paid a lower commission. And with other ones, if they're over the age of 80, if they're 81 to 85, you take a big haircut in commission. Not with Transamerica. Like I said, as long as it's a level benefit, preferred or standard, doesn't matter your client's age, you get the same commission level. Nursing home rider, they're one of the few carriers that have the accelerated death benefit, not only for terminal illness, but also if your client has to go into a nursing home, it's going to be permanent confinement. There's an accelerated death benefit rider for that as well. They also have a really good grandchild rider. It's super, super cheap, and you can add up to 9 grandchildren on the application. So that's a really good rider to have as well. And also the convenience of paying with Social Security Direct Express card. They're still one of the few carriers that accept Direct Express. And the other thing, Jimmy, they actually do a 9-month advance on Direct Express. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but anyway,
that's a good thing.
That's something new. Most carriers are going to pay, if you write Direct Express, they're going to pay you as earned, which means as the client pays. If the client's paying, $100 a month, and whatever your contract level is, you're going to get paid your commission monthly. Direct Express, that's the government issued credit card. Transamerica accepts it, and you'll get paid your full 9-month advance commission with that. So that's pretty cool.
It sounds like they want our business, Joe.
Sounds like they want a little bit of business, right? Well, the one thing that Transamerica says, because what they have told me is that they virtually see almost no drop off in persistency with Direct Express as they do with a regular banking, because of how efficient they do the Social Security billing. The other thing is that because, and I don't know if it's the way they do it because of the token that they get or whatever, once they get that Direct Express authorization, even if the client loses the credit card or it expires, they're still able to bill the account. So I don't know how they got that worked out, but anyway, so like I said, man, when it comes to billing, Transamerica is probably one of the best. You get very few lapses with Transamerica. Okay, moving on, improving the application process. Man, a year and a half ago when they made all these changes and I printed out the new Transamerica application, I swear it was 30 pages long. Because basically all they did is they did screenshots of all the fields that were on the e-application. I mean, it was like, I don't know honestly how they got any business. It was horrible. So I'm sure that's why they made all these improvements. Now their new paper application, they've removed over 50 fields from the paper application, and it's down to 7.5 pages. It's probably 11 pages when you put in the fillers and stuff. The other thing that they did is, and I think I have a slide for it, there used to be a separate form for if you're going to sign the client up for Social Security billing. Now it's just part of the application, so you don't have to worry about doing a separate form for Social Security billing. So this new application that they have is pretty much nationwide. I think it's approved everywhere except California, Florida, New York, Delaware, a few other states. But for the most part, a lot of the, most of the states we do business in, the new application is available. Just make sure when you print it, go to AgentNet info, make sure you're getting the right application for your state, okay? What else do we, okay, so improving the payment experience, which I kind of already alluded to. They eliminated the extra page for Social Security billing. So now just when you're filling out the regular EFT information, it's all included right there. And just make sure if your client's on Social Security, you're checking the box that you want Social Security billing, and you mark whether they get their Social Security on the 1st, the 3rd, or one of the Wednesdays, the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month, whatever it is. Make sure you check the right box so you can help eliminate lapses in the future. All right, credit card options. We talked about Transamerica accepting Direct Express. Now they accept all credit cards. So, and they pay full advance on all credit cards. So,
ooh, get you some.
I guess where this would come in handy is where you have that client and they have a checking account, but they use their debit card, I guess. And so you can take, the debit card with the MasterCard or Visa logo. You can use that. I would say most of our clients are not going to, put it on like a regular credit card. But anyway, I mean, a lot more payment options available now. So like you said, man, Jimmy, get you some. So you can do credit card for not only the initial premium, but also the reoccurring premiums. You can, and again, we talked about Social Security billing. You can do the traditional bank draft. And of course, you can do direct billing too, but that's going to be not monthly, but quarterly, which almost nobody signs up for that. So something new on that. Oh, the other thing too, I mentioned no fees. So it used to be, and with a lot of carriers, if they accept a credit card, you're paying a higher rate. There's a fee built in. So with Transamerica, if your client's paying with the Direct Express or a credit card slash, I guess, debit card, there's no extra fee. So whatever the premium is, the premium is. So which is another a huge benefit. And I got FEX Toolkit to update that. So if you're in FEX Toolkit and you put in clients paying with debit card, Transamerica will pop up now. So you can, so you know who will accept it. All right, man, moving on. A lot of good stuff on Transamerica. All right, token process. All right, just going back. There's one little extra step. If you're doing a paper application and your client is paying with a credit card, Direct Express or credit card, on the where you list in the account number, if your client is using a credit card, you don't actually put in their credit card number. You put in a special token number. And I think because they use this token number, that's how Transamerica is able to get around like expiration dates. So you don't need your client's expiration date or the code on the back of the card. All you need is the actual 16-digit number. So here's how it works. You need to get this app loaded on your phone. And here it is. It's creditcardtoken.transamerica.com. You can save this as a favorite on your phone. So when your client's going to pay with the credit card, all you do is you pull that little app up on your phone and you type in their credit card number and you push get a token. You see right here, it says, well, you can't see it because it's red, but anyway, you push where it says get a token and it'll give you a token number. And on the application, you put in the token. Okay. If you're doing an e-application, you don't put in a token number. It's going to ask you specifically for the credit card number. Once you put in the credit card number internally, it's automatically going to convert it to the token number, so you don't have to worry about it. So only if you're doing a paper app do you need to get the token number. So if you have any questions on this, it's really easy. But you can call me or Jimmy. We can walk you through it on how to do it. Not a big deal. You can even do it yourself. You can, it doesn't do anything. You can download the website, pull a credit card number out of your wallet, type it in, and it'll give you a token number. Doesn't go, you're not using it. Okay, e-application process. Just if I know probably the majority of our agents are doing e-application. The easiest way to do an e-application with pretty much any of our carriers is to use the FEX Toolkit pass-through option. So this is a screenshot of when you pull up FEX Toolkit. Again, Transamerica is coming up number 1. I closed the client on $53.97 per month. We're ready to go. All I got to do is tap right here on e-application, and it's an automatic pass-through to iPipeline, to the iPipeline. I don't have to go into the Transamerica website. So I'll just show you. Like I said, these are screenshots that I took right off of my computer. When I clicked e-app, it automatically took me right here. Okay, now I'm logged in as an agent. All I got to do is click on Start New Case, and boom, it's right there. Put in the client's information, go through the e-app process. We're not going to go through, this is not e-app training on how to do an e-app. But I mean, E-apps are the simplest. All you got to do is fill in all the blanks that it's asking you for, and it's very intuitive, and you just follow the prompts and you follow through it. Especially when you're doing an e-app or Transamerica, typically you're going to be doing this face-to-face. If you're doing it not in person, if you're selling over the phone, Transamerica is probably not the best because it's email signature. So you got to do it. You got to put in their email. It's going to send them an email. I like using the e-application even when I'm sitting with the client face-to-face. You don't even need to put, if you're doing it face-to-face, you type in that you're doing it face-to-face. There's no email verification. You can just sign right on the screen. It's really, really easy. All right, moving on. Once you do your e-application, I won't necessarily say this is like an instant decision, but it's a quick decision. It could be an instant decision. It could be, 4 or 5 minutes later. But basically, as the agent, you're going to get an email with 4 different messages. It's either going to be decision, approved as applied, which what we're hoping for. It's going to be approved at a different rate class. So maybe you thought they were going to be preferred. Maybe you're a little sketchy on whether they had mild asthma or chronic or maybe COPD. And because of their RX prescription history, it comes back as standard. So could be, it comes back as a standard rate class. Or it could be referred to underwriting, which we don't want to see. But it could be, maybe an underwriter needs to take a look at it. I would say the majority of the cases are being approved up front, either as applied. Very few, maybe 10 or 15% are going to an underwriting. And if you did a really good job on field underwriting, hopefully you won't have a lot of these, which is it's decline. So we don't like seeing declines. So that's what you're going to get. All right, moving on. If you, for whatever reason, you're not using FEX Toolkit, you want to do an e-application by logging in the agent portal, you need to go to AgentNet Info, put in your credentials, your password, log in. Look at all these steps you got to take to do it. Then you got to go over here to the left. You got to hit on iGo e-app. Then it's going to take you to another page. Now you got to hit on Transamerica Senior Market iGo e-application. Okay, I'm going to go back to that in a second. Then you got to click on iGo e-app. So how many clicks is that? I mean, think about this. First you got to log in. Then you got to click on this. Then you got to click on this. Then you got to click on that. That's like 4 or 5 clicks. Whereas if you were just on FEX Toolkit, it's 1 click and you're there. So after you click on the iGo e-app, click here to enter. Okay, then it takes you to the actual app. And then finally, you're getting into where you can start your new case after you've done all that logging in and, click through the website. The other thing, I just want to go back to this other screen. Is that something, if you want to learn more, I'm not sure, but I don't think we have an updated training video on the iPipeline for Transamerica Final Expense. I know we did one a while back. It may be a little bit different. If you're interested in finding out more about the Transamerica e-application process, there's a really good training video. So if you just log into the AgentNet Info, click on iGo e-app like you're going to do an e-application, there's a great little training video right here, iPipeline Final Expense video, and it walks you through the entire thing. So maybe I'll try to get that recorded or something and get it up on the on our channel. But anyway, I just thought I would point that out. So start a new case. Okay, for guys like me, for all the old school final expense, or maybe you can't do an e-application. Maybe you're in an area, your internet's down, or just, there's a glitch, something's not working. You need to do a paper application. Got a couple different ways. Number one, you need to do the paper application, really scrub it. The most important thing about any e-application or a paper application are signatures, okay? Make sure that you get all the proper signatures. And then before you scan it and email it or you fax it, make sure you scrub the snot out of it. Make sure it's perfect. It needs to be perfect before you fax it in. But if you're old school like me, you still got a fax machine. Here's the fax number. Load all the pages in there, push send, fax it over. And then, probably the next day you're going to get an email saying they received it. Okay. The best, if you're doing a paper application, the best way to get it to Transamerica, where you'll get an instant response, like you'll virtually get an email almost instantly after you send it, is you want to email it. So I'll show you how to email your application if you're still doing paper applications. Okay, you got to log back into the AgentNet info. This is the main agent portal. And over here on the left-hand side, just find where it says email documents. Pretty self-explanatory. Then there's a drop down here. You want to make sure that you select new business underwriting. Put in your name. I think I'm signed in under Senior Solutions. So make sure your name, your email, your client's name, your agent number is listed. Your address is going to put in there. Make sure you put in your street address. It's not vital, but you may want to put it in there anyway. And then where it says choose a file, of course, you need to be able to scan it and create a PDF document. All you need to do is save that to your computer, click choose file, go to wherever you have that file stored, upload it, and then write in any comments. So if there's any comments that you need to make, maybe it's about a medication, hey, client takes this medication, but it's only for high blood pressure or whatever. Put in any comments you may have to the underwriting team and click send, and your email is off. And within a few minutes, you'll get an email back saying that your application was received. If you're going to do a paper app, that's the way to get it to them. It's the quickest way to get them your paper app. So we're getting near the end, Jimmy. Any I can see if we have any questions, but any comments at all so far?
Yeah, Joe, when you mentioned about the token code working on, other credit cards, debit cards.
Yeah.
I Googled it real quick. And sure enough, the token code says that, it doesn't, there is no expiration. So as long as that bank account is still open, even if they reissue a card or a card expires or whatever, it's still going to go through. So to add to what you were talking about, taking regular credit cards or debit cards, get a token code, even if it's not a direct express. If you're going to take the payment form as a debit card or credit card, get a token code on that and use that, and that's going to increase your persistency. I remember doing a what do you call it, a direct express with the token code, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and by now the card should have expired easily, right? Yeah. And I put it on my reminder to follow up to update that card, and my reminder came up. So like I totally forgot about the guy, right? So I looked it up, and you know what? It's still active. It's still, the money's still coming in, and that's why, because it was a token code. So if you want to increase your persistency, use that token code, because I think that's key. You did a really great job, Joe. I just want to say, prior to the change when they came out, I guess it was about 18 months ago, right? I loved Transamerica. I loved them because everything was very liberal underwriting. Everything flowed smooth. And then when they made the change, it was horrible. And I remember talking to the rep, which was Tim Winder's son, Daniel. He told me point blank that Transamerica wasn't interested in final expense anymore. They're going after the IUL and the term, product. And so I kind of always remembered that. And then when they made all those changes, I was like, you know what? They don't want my business. So I'm really surprised. I think that they took a big hit, woke up, and now they're saying, oh well, let's take care of those final expense guys. And looks like they improved a lot of things. And one of the reasons why I really love Transamerica was how they pay their advance commissions. And you didn't talk about that, but it's different than the other carriers. And I don't know if you want to give a little time to that, but I mean, it's really, really cool. At one point, my check at the beginning of every month for my renewals was almost $3,000. And I shouldn't say renewals, but for the advance for the back half.
Yeah.
So that's really strong.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take a minute just to touch on that real quick, I did not get into how they pay the pass through, the I guess the back, not the renewals, but the back end. If you want to touch on that, that'd be awesome.
I'll just say it real quick. So like what Transamerica does is if you write a policy, let's say you write $5,000 in AP this month in June for Transamerica. It's submitted, it's issued, it's paid. Now that 5,000, they're going to advance you 75% of it up front. So the other 25%, I'm pulling out my calculator, times 25%, you're talking about $1,250. Normally, you're not going to see that until the 10th month with other carriers. But what Transamerica does is they take that $1,250, they divide it by 12, and then they're going to pay you $104 a month for the next 12 months on your renewal, not your renewals, but your back end money, the 25% that they withheld. So when you consistently write month in, month out, right? So that monthly check keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just builds up. And it gets to the point to where, at the beginning of every month, you got this nice fat check coming in because they rolled it out over 12 months. So it's really nice. I really like that.
All right, let me see here. Sam has a question. Sam, do you want me to, let me unmute you. Sam, if you're still on, unmute your line. You can ask your question. Or you can type it in. I didn't see, I see a question mark, but I didn't see where you typed in your question. Sam, are you there? Okay, all right, I'm gonna move on, and if he can tune in, that would be great. All right, so yeah, great point. The Transamerica, they're the only ones I know that does that pass through commission, getting that extra 25%. Actually, what is it? They start paying it in month 2, right?
Yeah, the very next month.
The very next month you start getting paid on that. The only other thing I want to mention on Transamerica really hasn't changed, but just to bring your attention, just in case you didn't know, they also offer a 10-pay, which we don't write a lot of, but man, have you ever got that client that, you're showing them a benefit and they're like, in their head, they're doing the math. Oh, I'm gonna have to pay on this for the next 40. If I live to 100, I'm gonna have to pay on it for 40 years. I'm gonna end up paying more into the policy than what it's worth. This 10-pay solution is really great, and it goes all the way down to age 0, all the way to age 85. And a 10-pay policy is basically, it's a whole life policy that's paid up in 10 years. So the premiums are a little bit higher, but the selling point to the client is the fact that they don't have to pay on it for their whole life. 10 years and it's paid up, it's done. So just, just keep that in your mind. Again, especially when you get the client that starts getting out a calculator and doing the math on it, and doesn't like the fact that they have to pay on it for a long time, especially if they're super healthy. If they have longevity in their family, if they're on no medications and they're, projecting their life expectancy to be well into their 80s or 90s, a 10 pay may be a really good solution. And then the last thing I just want to touch on before we end the call is Transamerica has also expanded their non-medical underwriting experience with some other products. So some things that I know we mainly write final expense, but if you do write any term or IUL business, take a look at Transamerica. They're trying to get as much business done without medical underwriting, meaning without a paramed. Obviously, they're still going to do full prescription history, MIB, the rare APS if needed. But take a look at some of their guidelines. On their IUL, which is they call it the FFIUL. It's the Financial Foundation IUL. It illustrates great. It's a great product. But if your clients are between the ages of 18 and 45, they can go all the way up to $2 million without a physical exam at all rate classes. What that means is that without a physical, they're going to get the best rate they qualify for as long as you're writing it for 100K or more. So if you got the super athlete that runs marathons and they qualify for the super preferred, preferred plus, whatever they call it, they're going to get it. Okay. If they're up to age 55, you can go all the way to $1 million with all rate classes. Okay. Now, if they're over 55, I'm not exactly sure what the underwriting is. There may be more strict underwriting, but especially for if you're writing a term policy or an IUL on your 55 and less clients that are in, decent health, Transamerica is a great option to look at without having to do a paramed. Trendsetter LB, that's their living benefit. This is probably one of my favorite term products. It's super competitively priced. The living benefits are tremendous. If they're going up from anywhere from 100,000 to 249,999, so just $1 under $250,000, ages 18 to 55, they can get all the way up to preferred. What does that mean? Jimmy, are you there? Oh, Sam, you're live. Do you have a question?
No. No, not at this time.
Oh, okay, no problem. There was a question mark, Cindy, on there, so I didn't know if Sam had a question. So if you do have a question, just raise your hand, okay?
Got it. Thanks.
Awesome.
Got it.
Good to hear you guys' voice. All right, I'll get that muted out. Okay, Trendsetter living benefits. It says up to preferred. What does that mean? That means it's capped at preferred. So that's the best rate class. If you have a client that maybe would have technically qualified for preferred plus, they're going to get preferred. What I can tell you, there's not a big difference in pricing. Okay. If you have that client that you think may want to get super preferred, all you have to do is write it for $250,000, write it for $1 more at $250,000. And if they qualify for super preferred, that's what they're going to get. And then anywhere from, if they're older, 46 to 55, you can go all the way up to from $250,000 to $1 million. All rate classes are available. And then if you're writing it for under 100,000, it's the standard band. It's no change, band 1. They're not going to be eligible for getting like preferred or super preferred. It's going to be the best rate class is going to be standard. So, which is not a big deal, especially on the lower face amounts. But for me anyway, if I had a client, you know, and they're wanting 50,000 or 75,000, I would probably just run 100,000, and, you know, maybe with the rate difference, if they got preferred, you know, it may be a better deal than running it at 75,000 at like standard or something. So anyway, man, that's all I got for Transamerica, the updates with that product. I'm really excited about, you know, doing more business with Transamerica. I think they've made tremendous strides on getting back in the game with final expense. And from what I understand, in the next 6 months, there's going to be even more improvements coming down the pipeline. So with that, Jimmy, any last comments or anything else you'd like to close us out with?
Well, you know, you showed the 10 pay, and Joe, I actually wrote quite a bit of those, and I just want to give you two scenarios that works for.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
the first one is if somebody is comparing or considering doing a pre-need plan with a funeral home,
Yeah.
I would go 10 pay right away, and I would show, well, look, you know, you can pay this off in 10 years. I would say in almost every case, I was able to double the coverage. So in other words, let's say somebody had a $15,000 pre-need plan, and I don't know, let's say their payment was going to be like 200 and something bucks a month. For the same payment, I would get them a 10 pay with 30,000, which would be more than enough to cover the cost of inflation over time. But more importantly, is that I would explain to them that the death benefits paid to their beneficiary, who's able to keep the remainder of the proceeds, and it's not
Right.
just going to the funeral home. So I close a lot of deals like that. And then the other one is for that customer that does the math. They pull the calculator out on their phone and they say, hey, well, you know, that much payment, I can, you know, save this much money up in so many years, right? So then for those people that are doing the math, I just go to 10 pay. And in I'm going to say most cases, depending on their health and their age, mathematically, they pay less than the face amount in those 10 years. Sometimes they have some health conditions that put them in a higher rate category, or maybe they're a little bit older. Maybe it doesn't work out mathematically, but it makes sense, and they can understand it. Plus, you got to remember to, you know, say, hey, well, what happens if you died next year? You weren't able to save up that money, but this pays the full, you know, 15 or 20,000, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, man, you
Great.
did a good job. I'm
Great.
excited that Transamerica is getting back in the game.
Absolutely. Guys, we got this recorded. I'll get it published. I'll get it up on our YouTube channel so you guys can review it. I'll text blast the link out to everybody so you can review it again at your earliest convenience. So, Jimmy, have an awesome weekend, brother. Good hearing your voice.
Same to you, Joe.
All right, everybody. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.